66, 65 actually. Nayana. Yeah. So you see, this sending the books to the libraries, in preparation for going to America, this is exactly what Bhaktivinoda Thakur did. He distributed his books by sending them to libraries. You all know the story that in 1896 he sent one to McGill University. Actually, the story there is that in 1882 he sent one of his books. It was the Sri Krishna Samhita. He sent it to Ralph Waldo Emerson. I mean, Ralph Waldo Emerson was like the world's most famous poet at that time. He founded that it was a school, like a group of poets and so on, called the Transcendentalists. And but Emerson was also interested in Indian religion and philosophy, and he had the most extensive library of Indian books in America. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur knew this and sent him the book. Now the thing is that the Krishna Samhita was written in Bengali and Sanskrit. So Mr. Emerson, when he received the book, he sent a reply to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur reproduced in his autobiography. And the letter from Emerson said, well, thank you, Mr. Thakur, for your book, but unfortunately I don't read Indian language, but I'll treasure this book anyway. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw that if he was going to get his books distributed, he had to write in English. So he did that. And then he wrote the Lord Chaitanya Life and Precepts, which he sent in 1896. And then, you can say it's a coincidence. To me, it's a miracle. But Prabhupada had one disciple from Montreal, in 1966. I don't know how he joined. He was a PhD student. His name was Jonas Dambourg. He was a French Canadian. He was initiated, I think, in the first initiation, as Janardhan. And he was a PhD student, and so at McGill University, and he had access to all the esoteric books that they had, and he found Lord Chaitanya Life and Precepts. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur had inscribed the book and put the date, 1896. So of course he immediately took the book, liberated, and sent it to Prabhupada. So I mean, what was this? Was an accident? I mean, Prabhupada took it as very significant because in teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he dedicates it to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who sent his books in 1896, which is the year of my birth. And Prabhupada said, that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was in one family, and I was in another family, and who knew how we were connected, but so Prabhupada, in his teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he immediately instructed me to add that essay, about 50 pages, Life and Precepts, as an introduction to the book. Then, of course, I told this to Satraj. He said I was being goofy, but well, if you don't know what goofy means, that the year 1896, 1896, and Prabhupada's teachings of Lord Chaitanya was published in 1968. 1968. I'm being goofy. Hare Krishna. No, there's numerology. There's a science. There's significant numbers. Tell stories. This all goes to show how Prabhupada was connected to the previous acharyas. Actually, and an extension. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he also did book distribution. He carried on in the same line. He had this mission to send his preachers to London, to England, and but before they had to take books with them. So, of course, all of Bhaktisiddhanta's, the majority, except for Brahma Samhita and a few small books, all his writings were in Bengali. He would translate the books that Bhaktivinoda Thakur published in Sanskrit, he published in Bengali. He translated. So, just like his edition of Chaitanya Charitamrita with his commentary, that was all in Bengali. Prabhupada translated that, of course, into English. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had one of his disciples, a professor write a book in English of Lord Chaitanya. It was called Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Big book. And it was based on the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which concentrates on the Navadvip pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And so although he wrote it, his name was Niskintya Sanyal, but his initiated name I forget. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he supervised the writing, and he wrote a very long introduction and so on. And it practically was his book. So he printed that and then gave copies to, I think, Ban Maharaj and I think Madhav Maharaj, whoever else went to go. He said, you must and distribute these books, and which they did. And they happened to send a copy to the University of Berlin, to the library there. And there was one German scholar, his name was Ernst Schultz, and he was a scholar in Pali Buddhism, Pali language. And he got this copy of this book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He read it, and he was very, it changed his life. He was so absorbed. So he wrote a letter to the author, who was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in India, that I read this book, and I want to meet you, or I don't know, I want to do something. So Bhaktisiddhanta replied him that you join up with my preachers there, Ban Maharaj, which he did. And then when Ban Maharaj came back to India in I think in 1936, he brought this Ernst Schultz with him. There's a photograph on the docks of Bombay with Ban Maharaj, and there were actually two Germans wearing turbans and garlands, and Prabhupada's in that picture. You seen that picture? Prabhupada, you can see Prabhupada, stunning, sitting right there next to them. And he was initiated, Schultz. He was, Prabhupada said, my very good friend. He actually stayed with Prabhupada. Prabhupada was living in Bombay at the time, and he stayed with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said he used to play with my son. So he became, I think, Sadananda. Swami, he became sannyas. So it was all from the books being distributed to the libraries, and someone just happens to get it and changes the whole life. So all the acharyas, they followed this process. That's why Prabhupada stressed so much. So, Prabhupada installed the deity here. So we have to ask the question, why did Prabhupada make this a Krishna Balaram temple? Why Krishna Balaram? Prabhupada, you know?
I know he says in one letter, it's like they wanted to make another Krishna Balaram temple. He said in Vrindavan there's so many Radha Krishna temples.
Yeah.
But in order to be unique, they made Krishna Balaram temple. But otherwise we have Radha Krishna. But here in Vrindavan we find that uniqueness.
Okay. But there's a deeper reason, which Prabhupada writes in a purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita. No, we have to ask, Vrindavan, there's 5,000 Radha Krishna temples. There's no Krishna Balaram temples. Although there are some. I think there's 2 or 3 Krishna Balaram temples. You know? Dinabandhu, he knows. Actually, Prabhupada went to see one Krishna Balaram temple. They brought him. Very small temple. Very small deities. Just, I think, 12 inches. It was some Goshala. It was far out. They had a lot of cows there. Prabhupada went to see. Yeah, I noticed, in the temple, when after the greeting of the deities and when the devotees, they want to have darshan. So there's 3 sets of deities. So where do devotees mostly congregate in front of? Yeah. Okay. Just checking.
Good check.
Why don't they congregate around Krishna Balaram? He's the main deity. Anyway, here's the reason why. So this is the purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally renovated Vrindavan Dham and advised his chief disciples Rupa and Sanatan to develop it and open it to attract the spiritual vision of the general populace. At present, there are about 5,000 temples in Vrindavan, and still our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is constructing a huge, magnificent temple for the worship of Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, along with Radha Krishna and Guru Gauranga. Since there is no prominent Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, we are attempting to construct one so that people will be attracted to Krishna Balaram or Nittai Gaura Chandra. Rajendra Nandanaye Sachi Sutta Hailase, Narottam Das Thakur says that Balaram and the son of Maharaj Nanda have advented themselves as Gaur-Nitai. You know that quote from Narottam Das Thakur, Rajendra Nandanaye Sachi Sutta Hailase, Balaram Haila Nitai. The son of Sachi is none other than the son of Mother Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj, and Nityananda Prabhu is the same Balaram. So, on the basis of what Narottam Das Thakur has stated. Prabhupada accepts. So to propagate this fundamental principle, we are establishing a Krishna Balaram temple to broadcast to the world that worship of Gaur Nitai is the same as worship of Krishna Balaram. Although it is very difficult to enter into the Radha Krishna pastimes, most of the devotees of Vrindavan are attracted to Radha Krishna Leela. However, since Nitai Gaura Chandra are direct incarnations of Balaram and Krishna, we can be directly in touch with Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Those who are highly elevated in Krishna consciousness can enter into the pastimes of Radha Krishna through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahiyanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha Krishna. So this is revolutionary in Vrindavan, that actually Prabhupada is establishing worship of Gaur Nitai. Prabhupada said, you want to go in, enter Radha Ras Leela, Radha Krishna Leela, but first you have to be delivered. And you're delivered by Gaur Nitai. And actually, of course, Prabhupada says that he's establishing Guru Gauranga, which is a further ramification of Gaur Nitai, Guru Gauranga, where the deities are Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada installed his own deity and worshipped his own deity. Who else could do that? So
Prabhupada said not install Krishna Balaram deity other part of the world.
Later on he did, yeah.
Only Gaur Nitai.
Huh?
Could you repeat that?
He asked if Prabhupada installed Krishna Balaram in other parts of the world. Yeah, they did the Paris farm, New Mayapur. Australia? Oh, really?
Mauritius.
I've never been there. Now there's Krishna Balaram, I think, in Jaipur, isn't it? And some other places, I think. I can't remember. Where?
Bhubaneswar. ISKCON
Oh, Bhubaneswar, right, yeah.
This one in Mauritius.
And Mauritius, yeah. Alachua?
Yeah. You know, been
5 years ago.
Really?
They have Gaur Nitai, Radha Shyama and Krishna Balaram.
Oh.
You Raman Reiki.
Oh. So, should continue or? Well, Prabhupada installed the deity in Ram Navami, but it wasn't supposed to be Ram Navami. He had chosen Janmashtami the previous year. Yeah. What happened? Huh? Yeah, you're my punching bag. You want to tell us?
He did.
Oh, he did? Okay.
You tell us your version. I didn't. Oh, okay.
Well, all I know is I was in the car sitting next to Prabhupada. He drove down the road, and Prabhupada was going to install the deity. He wrote letters to Sridhar Maharaj and all his godbrothers and different people around the world, inviting them to come for the installation, and we drove, and then as we made the turn, and there it was, a construction site. There was the slab, and then a few brick pillars with the wires sticking up. He said there was more than that. Well, you weren't responsible. It was Guru Das who was inviting Prabhupada, saying that it would be finished, and then,
Well, there was.
because he didn't want to disappoint Prabhupada.
But there was a lot more.
And it was due to Tamal Krishna Goswami, who quit being GBC of India.
All in there.
He was the one that Prabhupada would have gotten report, who was responsible. It was just,
But to go from, not a lot of time, from John Master, 74. No, it's okay. From John Master, 74, to Ram Navami, 75.
less than a year.
Exactly, about 8 months.
Yeah.
So, I remember when I first came to Vrindavan, there was already a slab of steel.
Oh, really? And when was that?
Yeah, 72.
Oh, really?
Because Guru Das had established something. And then
Where's your book, Devi Shakti? Hare Krishna. Oh
not
boy.
John Master.
Okay.
Yeah, so I came in early 72, and there wasn't anything at that point. There was just shrubs, there was just bare land. And we all lived at Radha Damodar temple on the roof. There was just a handful of us. And then Prabhupada ordered us out to the land. And that's when we built the huts. And Guru Das and Yamuna remained at Radha Damodar temple, and they used to come out in the rickshaw a little later on. And
The huts were made of just brick
just bricks.
and mud.
Well, it was gova. It was covered inside and outside because it was very cooling and medicinal. You know, it was good. Very simple. I remember the first meeting we had about whether we should get a small rotating fan, because should we tolerate the stringent laws of Vrindavan's weather, or should we get a small fan? And we decided eventually to get a fan, and we were all able to, was it 6, 9, 12, 3, so there was 4 of us, like a clock, like the hands of like 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, like that. We'd lay so the rotating of the fan would hit us all, you know. And that's how we...
Prabhupada told us the 6 Goswamis, the Rupa Goswami stayed under a different tree every night. That's what he told. So that's what we thought. Well, that's how you live in Vrindavan.
Well, when Prabhupada saw how we were living in those huts, he was very pleased. He was very happy because he said, "This is Vrindavan mood." And but there was things took time right from the very beginning. There was no plans, nothing. And then eventually, through the endeavors of Guru Das, they got some sort of a plan, but it was sort of basement only.
Surabi hadn't come?
Surabi hadn't come by then. So the actual, from when Surabi came, Haribol. When Surabi first came to Vrindavan, to the conclusion, to the opening, the actual opening at Ram Navami, it was 2 years. The whole thing took 2 years to build.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all.
Very quick. But it just dragged at first. And then we had huge problems with the cement. And that's when Prabhupada came, and I think you were there with Prabhupada.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know, I think everyone...
That was the problem. There was no cement and no steel.
And the thing is, the cement that was available, they were mixing it with sand.
Yeah.
So we had to be very careful of that.
That was the black market.
Yeah, it was all black market in those days. And I reckon we used to go pretty much every other day to Mathura by rickshaw.
No, I used to go.
Everyone had turns.
Prabhupada sent me.
You go this day.
And Pranava.
Yeah,
Pranava.
Yeah, yeah. That Indian gentleman. Yeah.
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 Because he would speak the Hindi, and I'd go to the... Prabhupada would tell me precisely, you know, which officer, you know, and to see what he said. Then I'd come back, give the report, then Prabhupada to how to reply, and then to go the next day, and they would move from desk to desk, and this and that.
There was a general shortage, you know.
The reason there was a shortage is because of Pagal Baba.
Oh, yeah.
Pagal Baba was building his temple at the same time.
The heavenly planet.
You seen Pagal Baba? 8 stories?
Yeah.
So he was, and he had money, and he had connections, and you know, you had to get the license. You couldn't just buy the cement and steel. You had to get the license to buy it.
Yeah.
License Raj.
That's right. So after great endeavor, and with Prabhupada there, we got the cement in the end, and there was a huge amount of cement. I think that one shipment, I think we had at least 9 trucks of cement come.
As we were pulling out, Prabhupada was leaving. When we came, there was nothing. As we were leaving, pulling out in the car, we're driving up, and there are all the trucks lined up. And they're unloading the bags and the steel and everything. And I said to Prabhupada, you know, when you came, there was nothing. And
that's true.
Now you're leaving, and full go down.
Although it happened that I had to count every single bag to make sure that we got every single bag. And I was there from, I'd say, 6 in the morning till 7 at night, just outside. And I was, by the time I finished, I was grey. You know, I know I'm grey, but I was actually, my skin was grey.
The dust.
Everything was grey. You know. So I went into Prabhupada's room, and you were there, and Gagamuni, I think Achyutananda also. And I didn't want to disturb you because you were having this meeting. So I just sort of came in through the door and just sat by the door. And then Prabhupada called me over. And he said, "So is everything done?" And I said, "Yes, Prabhupada." And then I went to go. And he said, "No, you can stay." But I was covered in cement. So I left anyway. And that was the beginning of progress. Yeah.
So at the ceremony, then, my job was to take care of Prabhupada, to see to everything. But Prabhupada, forego that convenience of having a personal servant, and he told me to look after Chana Reddy.
Yeah.
He's the governor of UP.
Yeah.
He was the chief guest.
Yeah.
And he was here. He stayed in the guest house, and Prabhupada ordered me. He said, "You go and you stay with him and take care of him, whatever he wants. See to him that he has everything."
Yeah. He was a very nice man, actually. Prabhupada took a liking to him, didn't he?
He was Chana Reddy. I researched him. Of course, he wasn't UP Walla.
No.
He was Andhra.
Yeah, he's ready.
Reddy.
Yeah.
And how he became governor of UP. UP is the largest state in India, and the most important has the most seats in parliament and so on. In Andhra, he started agitating for this separate state, this Telangana thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's how he started in politics. And he was very effective in making demonstrations. So to get him out of there, Indira Gandhi, she made him chief minister or our governor of UP.
Yeah.
That's how she dealt with that.
Yeah.
Because he had nothing to do with UP. But he was a very refined person.
He was.
From Andhra.
Yeah. And I was saying to the devotees this morning, all that pomp and, with the installation of the deities, with the local Goswamis, Prabhupada was saying that, we can just install the deities by chanting Hare Krishna. But if we get them to do the installation, then they can never say that they're not genuine deities. And that was another master stroke by Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Because now the Goswamis can never say that this temple is not bona fide, because they installed the deities.
See, in those days, Prabhupada's main mission, the thrust of all his preaching was to legitimize this movement. To get it accepted as something bona fide, and which nobody could identify with this movement.
Yeah.
The Indians couldn't identify because they didn't have anything to do with it really at that time, and they weren't joining. And I remember when we, at Prabhupada's disappearance time, Sarup Damodar had a conference, the Bhaktivedanta Institute conference. There was a hall here. It was the largest hall in Vrindavan. And big people came. I remember Bajaj came, he a big industrialist.
Yeah, big, yeah.
And he challenged me. He said, why are there no Indians here? Why are there no Indian devotees? And I didn't, and there weren't any. Not a single one. Maybe a handful, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to answer. And I said, well, and I had to admit, he said, this is your failure. And I had to, what could I say? Because no one was joining.
Now there are so many.
Because the Brahmins wouldn't accept. In fact, they made a big propaganda that Prabhupada has ruined Hinduism in India by giving sacred thread to milechas. They made a big propaganda. He has ruined the Hindu religion. And then Indira Gandhi was saying that we're a CIA. They published in the newspaper, in the Calcutta newspaper, they published Gargamuni's photo. Gregory Shah, he's chief head of station for Bengal CIA. And when he went to make the members, they said, well, wait a second, So he had a...
Who is that Indian gentleman that Prabhupada used to walk on Bombay, on Juhu Beach with? What was his name?
Dr. Patel.
Patel, right. Do you remember that one morning when they were walking together, Prabhupada and Dr. Patel? Dr. Patel, Prabhupada and Dr. Patel stopped, and Dr. Patel thrust his cane into the sand and said, "It took us years to get rid of the British. Years. And now you're bringing them back again." Why are you doing it, Prabhupada? Why are you bringing back all the Western people? Prabhupada said, because India is like a house full of servants without a master. That's
Really?
what Prabhupada's reply was, yeah.
See, that Dr. Patel, if you study the conversations, he was very knowledgeable. He was a Sanskritist
Yeah.
scholar.
They used to argue.
And
you know.
he was basically Mayavadi, and so he would argue with Prabhupada. And, he would say things, we would never dream of saying.
Yeah.
But then you had Prabhupada giving the retort, the reply. And so it was, excellent preaching. To me, it was like Krishna sent Dr. Patel there. I mean, he was there every morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, obnoxious and egotistical and... Yes, they came.
Really?
There was a group of them, actually. This Madan Mohan guy, he was there, and a few others dressed in their shorts and polo shirts. Sure. Because then they would go for the walk on the beach.
Yeah, because they would, keep fit. That car ride coming back into Vrindavan, when Prabhupada saw the domes, the domes had been erected.
Oh,
That was a huge lift at that time, you know, because then Prabhupada could see, yes, at last it's come.
when was that?
Remember when Prabhupada came back? I can't remember exactly the time, but it was after all the disappointment of not opening at Janmashtami, and then he came back another time. Maybe Deva Shakti has the time, and Prabhupada saw the domes, and he was really pleased because of the shape, the color, the chakra on top. It's nice.
You know what Prabhupada said about Krishna Balaram Mandir? This goes back to 1970,
Yeah.
when Prabhupada was leaving Los Angeles and to go to India. And Prabhupada didn't want to go because he had just gotten to Watsika Avenue, and he was making that his world headquarters, and he was establishing deity worship and festivals and all the activities, and then they would invite the temple presidents from all temples to come and see what was being done. That's how they got trained up. And but then Prabhupada says, Lord Dwarkadish, he told me to go to India, and I didn't want to go, and I was arguing with him, saying that I just got this temple, but then Lord Dwarkadish told Prabhupada that if you go to India, I will give you a temple that's 100 times better than this Watsika. And then, so Prabhupada, was reminiscing on that, and so he said, so don't you think that this temple is 100 times better? So this is
It's amazing.
Krishna's arrangement.
Prabhupada sometimes would be quite explicit about that internal dialogue with Krishna.
Yeah, he rarely
Very
would say
rare.
that.
But sometimes there was...
Never, because it would be
Yeah,
misunderstood.
of course, yeah. Yeah. I think there's other people. Do you want to read something from your book?
There's some people that was spoken already.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Brahmananda?
No.
Yeah. Very.
Well, I was going to read, but it's not important if there's others to speak. But I just want to let you know that Prabhupada installed the Anantashesh in Bombay on Ram Navami. So,
No, 72.
74.
72.
74. That's what it says here. April 7th, 1974. Ram Navami. And Prabhupada gave a talk about Ram Navami and about building the temple, the importance of making a big temple.
Anyway, You gave us a lot of information that we never heard before. Very good.
You have something to say? Okay.
Do you remember Bhumi Bhajan?
Oh, good.
Do you
Huh?
remember Bhumi Bhajan?
Yes. He translate, yeah. Bengali, not Sanskrit.
What do you know?